This is a guide for being lean. Number one is you should not eating high amount of like fat and also high amount of like carbohydrates at the same time, which basically our body only prefer one source of energy, whether it's like fat or glucose, and our body prefer fat. It is because ketones, which are fat, they can suppress inflammation, and also fat has a fat soluble vitamins which an essential nutrients for us. For example, it's like vitamin A, which are retinol, D3, K2, and vitamin E. This is the essential nutrients. But what about carbs? What about glucose? Which basically our body can utilize them for energy, but the thing is our body much prefer fats for energy. It is because glucose, carbohydrates, which basically they are not nutrients. It is because the definition of nutrients is nourishing or require. It is carbohydrates are required? No. Why? It is because the glucogenesis process will be always active in any time, in any given time, which basically you always like active no matter what you do, no matter what you eat, no matter what you like literally like I'm speaking and you are like listening. The glucogenesis process is active. It's chronically active. It's like will be like always active until you die. It's literally our it's literally our body to design to being like that. It is and the glucogenesis process, you know, the the percentage of it like 10% of margin rate, which they are always like being active. So one, they are not required because our body can make our own glucose. But the thing is, if you like consuming exogenous of carbohydrates, even though our body can produce our own glucose, which basically in perfect amount, which basically t 4 grams, only 4 grams for our whole body to make the perfect amount of glucose that our body needs. And also the excess backbone triglyceride, which basically can convert the excess of backbone triglyceride can convert to glucose, which basically 4 grams of glucose, which basically that's our only need. Our body only need 4 grams of glucose. It is because when you're consuming exogenous of carbohydrates, it's very glycating, which we call it advanced glycation ends products, AGEs. And the problem with that is it bind the protein in your blood, which basically make you aging faster. You can do this with your like during the blood test, which basically AC1, something like that. I'm not sure if I was right, but it's like AC1 test, which basically tests your blood, which basically it you want to see whether your blood is like glycate, which basically they strip away the protein in your blood, which basically make you aging. There's no reason for doing that, which basically carbohydrates aren't required because our body can make our own glucose at any given time. Even though you're consuming high amount of carbohydrates, medium carbohydrates, low carbohydrates, or no carbohydrates at all, our body will still, the glucogenesis process will still active even though you're consuming high amount of glucose, high amount of carbohydrates. So it's not required, our body can synthesize it. Number two is it's not nourishing to us because exogenous in high amount of carbohydrate is very glycating. It make us aging faster. There's no reason for doing that. That's number two. That's number one, which basically do not regulate your render cycle. Do not eat high amount of like carbohydrates and fats at the same time. It is because, as I talked earlier, our body only prefer one source of energy. So basically, if you have a two source of energy, fat and also like carbohydrates, the problem with that is high amount of like glucose are really toxic for our body, which basically when you consuming high amount of like exogenous of carbohydrates, our blood sugar spike. And when our blood sugar spike, it's really toxic for our body. That's why our bodies like produce insulin hormone in our pancreas to trying to suppress it down, because in high amount of like blood sugar, which basically can cause like insulin resistance, which basically can lead to type 2 diabetes. There's a big problem over there, which basically when you have a super elevated chronically high of like blood sugar, it's really toxic and inflammation and also like insulin resistant, which can lead to type 2 diabetes. That's why your body will utilize glucose first, and the fat that you eat from the dietary will be stored in your body. So basically, make you store more fat. It is because you have a two source of energy, fat and glucose, trying to your body will utilize glucose first. It is because they want to get rid of them quickly as soon as possible, because in high amount it's really toxic. But is not like causing the fat is not like causing like inflammation or causing like type 2 diabetes. So basically the fat will be are not utilized first. It will like store in your body, which basically make you will very like high amount of like body fat. This number one. Number two is no fructose, no glucose. And when the fructose comes from fruits, alcohol, and also glucose, carbohydrates, which basically I already talked earlier. It spike your blood sugar, which basically your organ pancreas produce insulin hormone to trying to suppress it down. The problem with insulin, too much of insulin hormone, it is because it can inhibit fat burning state. It is because one, insulin is a fat storage hormone. So basically insulin will make you store more fat. And also insulin hormone at the same time, they're like aging hormone too. So basically make you aging, make you look older, and also make you fat at the same time. It is because high amount of insulin inhibit inhibit what the fuck man inhibit lipolysis action, lipolysis process. And lipolysis is a metabolic process that broken down store fat like triglyceride to free fatty acid, glycerol for energy, which that means is very conducive for fat burning state, which can lose your body fat easily. So yeah, there's no fruits because fruits can stimulate insulin hormone, and also fructose, which basically can block the leptin hormone, which basically leptin hormone is a satiety hormone that makes you full, and also it regulates the ghrelin hormone, and ghrelin hormone is a hormone that makes you hunger. So basically fruits make you easily overeat. It blocks leptin and upregulates ghrelin hormone. And fruits are nature fat gainer. It is like literally fruits are used in seasonally. They are only Fruits are only available during the summer, and it is like a survival mechanism for like animals during the winter. Like bears do it, great apes do it. Even there's a rare tropical fish from the Amazon that jump out from the water to eat berries to put on fat for the winter. So basically, it's a survival mechanism. But the thing is, it's not optimal for them and also for us too. It is because it regulates the renal cycle, which basically stressing the metabolic state in your body, and also There's a lot of like glycating as well. Fructose can be like 7 to 11 times more glycating than glucose, which basically depending your render cycle. If the render cycle is upregulated, then the glycating which be like can be 11 times, which basically you will look more aging. So this number one. This number two, which basically no fructose, no glucose, which basically can stimulate insulin hormone in high amount, which basically can block the process of fat burning states, and also fructose and glucose, fructose and glucose too also like block the leptin hormone and regulates the ghrelin hormone, which basically make you overeat too. And also dairy food too. It is because dairy food has a lactose, which basically lactose can be converted to glucose. Of course, fructose are much worse compared to the lactose, but still, in high amount of like raw dairy, even though raw dairy you consuming a lot of like dairy in the diet, it will still make you overeat, which basically they have a lactose, which convert to glucose, and glucose in high amount of glucose can stimulate insulin hormone, and the problem with insulin hormone can block from your body to burning fat. So yeah, there's like all the literally like high amount of lactose which can be found in dairy foods, like milk, cheese, yogurt. In high amount, they convert to glucose, and glucose can stimulate insulin, and high amount of insulin, you know, it block your body to being a fat burning state. So you got the point. That's it, bro. My voice is really fucked, bro. And other things, number three is do not eat high amount of like plant toxin like lectins that can be found in tomatoes and also like beans, which basically they have a high amount of lectins. And the problem and tomatoes are really low in glucose, which basically will not overstimulate insulin hormone, but and also a low in fructose, which basically are not like blocking the leptin or ghrelin hormone. But the problem with that is the lectin can block the leptin. Lectins, the anti-nutrients, can block the leptin hormone, which is satiety hormone, during the binding process. So basically, if you like consuming beans, tomatoes, which are high in lectins, which can disrupt your gut at the same time, and also it block the leptin. It always like make you overeat as well. And number four is blue lights. So basically, you're exposed to the blue lights from the screen, from the computer, from the laptop, from your mobile phone. It will still can block the leptin hormone. This number four. Number five, you should like if you want to being satiety, you should like consuming high amount of like fat and also protein, specifically protein and fat that comes from the animal's product, not from like other things, not from like what tofu, which have protein. But the thing is, the protein, the amino acid composition between tofu or beans compare versus to the meats, red meats, ruminant animals are far more inferior. So basically the protein in the meats are far more superior compared to the protein amino acid from the beans, tofu and something like that. Specifically, you should get high protein and high fat from the animal's product, ruminant animals, flesh and fat, optimally, which basically flesh, fat, and protein are literally our GLP-1 inducing meals that you could have. And what GLP-1 means is literally is a state where it makes you full. So basically, it makes you full. It makes you not overeat. So that's the tips. 5 tips. One is like no fructose, no carbohydrates. Do not upregulate your render cycle. Because it will too much of insulin hormone will block the fat burning state. And also do not have a high lactin diet, which basically can be found in plant foods, for example like tomatoes, and also like potatoes, beans. And also do not get exposed to the blue light that in high amount. And lastly, this is a long video, but lastly is if you want to be in a fat burning state, a lot of people say exercise, exercise, exercise. But specifically exercise that helps you to burning fat is literally walking. It is because low intensity exercise like walking is gonna be like more lipolysis action. And as I talked earlier, lipolysis action is a process where it's a metabolic process that broken down your stored fat from to glycerol or free fatty acids, which basically very conducive for fat burning states. If you are like doing high intensity, short volume short volume exercise like resistance training, jogging, and something like that. The problem is that your body will be use energy as glycogen, not fat. The thing is when you are like walking, the lipolysis process will be like always active, which basically will fat burning states. But if you are like exercised like in high intensity, short volume, resistance training, jogging, whatever it is, really high intensity. The problem with that is your body will be used glycogen for the energy, which basically is not very conducive to lower the body fat, as this guide literally for being lean, which basically want to maximize to being in a fat burning state. I mean, that's it. It's a long video, but it's really super valuable. All the knowledge, all the fucking. My voice is fucking fucked up right now, but fuck me. All the nutrients. Sorry, bro. Bro, fuck me, bro. All the fucking. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Man, what's wrong with me, man? Professional, bro. Professional. All the knowledge I get this, you can get this from my online course, which basically there's a limited size that people can join. So join it right now. Other than that, thanks for watching. You can do your own research about what I'm saying here. Render cycle, lipolysis action, lectins, blue lights, something like that. Fructose. I mean, that's it. Peace. Man, my voice so hurt, bro. If your goal is to being attractive, it's literally you have to being healthy first. It is because you want to fix your skin issues, you want to fix your body fat. It just all relies on the diet mostly. And it is because if you have a lot of problems, for example, is you want to try to eat carnivore diet. But the thing is your parents like against you. They say cholesterol is really bad. They say that saturated is really bad. Even though there's a new study that shows that it's really crucial and it is essential and there's no problem in high amount. So all the problems I will solve there, and all my nutrition guide I will support you. Link the description below where I have a guide that teach you all the knowledge you need and also solve all the problems which basically that hinder your goals to achieve the to being optimally healthy in the diet. So link in the description below.